Welcome to this very exciting event with my dear friend, Moshe Gersht, who's all the way here from Ramat Beit Shemesh. We spoke as the bombs were falling, and as Rav Moshe was trying to figure out, is it appropriate to do his tour? He just finished his third book, and is it appropriate to go around the world and try to get people to read his book? And in that conversation, which I know he got the same feedback from a lot of people, was that I think right now this is not a book about some random topic. It's a book about living, like really living day to day with the belief and the knowledge and the confidence that Hashem is with us. It's a scary world. It's a crazy world. There's a lot of unknowns, and I think right now is as good of a time as ever for you to be sharing these ideas with us and to have this conversation. Just so that you know where we know each other from, we were in the same yeshiva together from the years 2007 to 2008, and then we became chavrusas again in the Mir Yeshiva, and then I actually reserved him as my Mashiach chavrusa. You should do that, by the way. When Mashiach comes, there's going to be a real a scramble for chavrutas. So I reserved my chavruta about 10 years ago. I said, when Mashiach comes, I got you, right? I called dibs. Okay, so Rav Moshe is my Mashiach Chavruta. We have the pleasure of having him here tonight. He's going to be sharing about these ideas for about 40, 45 minutes, and then he will stop for questions. And then hopefully there's questions. I told him if there's no questions, you can keep going, okay? But I will try to moderate. But as you're listening, the ideas are not, it's big ideas. It's big ideas. Try to think in the kind of practical way. Like, this is not just like, oh, that was interesting, and then you walk out and your life is the same. If you do that, like, what was the point? The idea is that the ideas should change your life in some way, right? If they change your life half a degree, that's a totally different life, right? Half a degree in the course of a lifetime is a totally different life. So try to think about these ideas. Do they make sense with you? Can you apply them? Does it seem too esoteric, too idealistic? That's going to produce really, really good questions and a great conversation at the end. It is my great pleasure and zechut to introduce you to my dear friend, Rabbi Moshe Gersht. I mentioned his books over here. Props to Rabbi Silva and RG for being the first to purchase the books over here. His first book came out during COVID. He wrote it during COVID. I remember being locked in my apartment in New York City, telling him, Rabbi Moshe, you got to write this book. Now's the time. People don't know what's going on in the world. They need that sense of calm. That's the first book. It's all the same to me. And the other book, which came out during the next crisis, the crisis we're in right now, The Three Conditions, very exciting. It just came out 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Okay, so very exciting. You have him here live in person.
Thank you, Rabbi Jack. It might have been me that dibbed you for my Mashiach Chavrusa. I don't remember who dibbed the other one first, but yeah. And I'm also not sure if I put out books when there are crises, or if, what I'm trying to say is I don't think I caused the problem, but hopefully, we're helping solve some of the solution. Hi, good evening. It is nice to see all of you, and it's nice to be here. This is Aventura. Is it Aventura? So then it's nice to be in It's nice to be in the presidential estates with all of you. Wonderful. When I first walked in, I was trying to figure out, because everybody around me was speaking Spanish. And so I said, so what do I say? Buenos Aires? That was serious. So, buenas noches a todos. En un placer estar aquí. That's as far as I got. So, but we're here together, and we're here now. And like Rabbi Jack said, I almost canceled this whole tour. I've been away from my family for the last 4.5 weeks. My family, my wife, is at home with our children. And the world is in a strange place, a weird place to be right now. Especially if you're a Jewish person walking around and you're in America. That's one type of tension. And then being in Israel is a different type of tension. And that was the first thing I noticed when I got here, was there's tension everywhere. But there's different forms of anxiety. There's different things that we're feeling and experiencing. And when I asked my mentors, should I go through with this, and should I still go out and talk about these things? They said, look, the world is really dark. right now. And your messages are about light. The world needs light. The question isn't, should you go? The question is, what does your wife think? And that's always the question, by the way. And when I sat with my wife and I told her I had this idea of continuing, but I'm not sure, she said, look, I'll make sure the home doesn't fall apart. You go out, help make sure the world doesn't fall apart. We're doing the same thing, just in different places. So we can all thank my wife for allowing me to be here to begin with. Yeah. So there's a great quote, a line that I think about quite often, and it goes like this: that which is real can never be threatened. That which is unreal doesn't exist. And herein lies the peace of God. Okay? It's a deep poetic idea. So I'll say it again and we'll try to go into it together. That which is real can never be threatened. Right? Meaning there's something real in our lives, in ourselves, in this human experience that's untouchable. And that which is unreal, it doesn't exist. Meaning there are things in our lives that look like they matter. They don't really matter. And it's therein, when we can recognize what's real and let go of the things that don't matter, that's where we start to find peace in our life. And I think one of the things that we noticed and saw collectively was after October 7th, through an event of wordless, you can't even describe, tragic, grief, sadness, fear, came something also, which was a sense of unity that I don't know if I've ever experienced in my life, and everybody I speak to feels the same. Something happened. Something changed. Something real. There's this great story about the Chose Lublin. The Chose Lublin was one of the great Hasidic Rebbes, and his name means the seer. He saw things in a deep way. And when he was about 5 years old, so he used to go out to the forest. He'd spend time in the forest, and then he'd come back. He'd go out to the forest, and then he'd come back. And at some point, his mother looks at him and says, "My little boy." By the way, I don't know about you. I have a 5-year-old at home. I don't know if I'd be letting my 5-year-old out to the forest anyway. But she says, "My little boy, why are you going out to the forest?" And he says, "Oh, I want to go speak to Hashem." She says, "My precious little boy, don't you know? Hashem is the same everywhere." And he says, "Yeah, mommy, but I'm not." Right? That we can go to a different place and we feel different. We touch something that was there anyway, but because we're in a different place in the world, right? How many people have gone to Israel and you feel something? You feel different. You go to the Kotel, you feel different. You go to Shabbat, you walk in and all of a sudden it was just Friday and now it's Friday night, but you feel different, right? A place in the world, a space in time. And sometimes it's people you're with, right? There's certain people you spend time with, and when you're with them, you're different. What changed? You were still that person. There's something there, but we don't always feel that. And what happened after October 7th was a lot of the things that were unreal fell away, and we remembered and felt something that was there the whole time. It was there the whole time. We were missing, right? And that becomes the big question. What was it blocking us from the thing that's real? How do we touch that space where, we're speaking about BITACHON tonight. We're speaking about the idea of faith, trust, connection, certainty. How do you get to that place? And the deepest way to get to that place is to feel it. It's nice to think about it, but a belief in the mind is comforting. It's nice, but it's only through the experience that it becomes liberating. You are now free to live this life in a new way. So what is blocking us from that place? So I was thinking a lot about this over the last few weeks. The main thing that we do to keep us separate from other people is we live in boxes. There are lots of boxes. English box, Spanish box, Republican, Democrat, religious, not religious, Litvak, Hasidic, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, you name it, we got a box for it. And a shul. Yeah, we literally put boxes for different people. I daven in this shul, you daven in that shul. We meet at the market. But we make these boxes that keep us separate. But what are those boxes? Those boxes are nothing other than judgments. They're opinions we have about the world, but they don't really exist. There really is no separation. We make the separation in our mind. And what happened after October 7th was, well, the boxes fell away because we woke up and we realized those things don't matter. None of that matters. That's not real. That's not real. Okay, it's good to know what language we speak and maybe who we vote for and what we're doing, but that's not really real. That's not the depth of who we are. And it shouldn't have to take a crisis to wake us up, but it does. Sometimes we go through that to wake up to this deeper place. But now that we're here, the question is, how do we leverage what we've gained? We did gain something. With all that we've lost, we did gain this. We gained a sense of connection again. We gained a sense of, whoa, what really matters? Like, I spoke to a lot of people on this trip, right? I've been in every city, and I asked, in every city, I said, that first week that we were all struggling, processing what happened, was your work and making money at the front of your mind that week? Were you worried about what you were going to wear that day? Was that so important? All the things in our life that we normally keep way up front, they just stopped being important really fast, because sometimes we get kicked into what's real. But now that we're here, the question is, how do we perpetuate that? How do we get more real with the life that we have? Where do the judgments come from? Why do we do it to begin with? That'll be the source. If we can change that, then maybe we can keep not just the connection to others. You see, these judgments don't just separate us from other people. And here's the real trick, is understanding those same judgments keep us separate from ourselves. We all have a vision of who we're supposed to be. And then we judge ourselves based on who we're not. And they also keep us separate from Hashem. They keep us separate from a reality of something real that we don't always feel. It's there, but maybe we're not. And the wall that blocks us between here and there, so in Torah, we have different words for it. In English, we call it the ego, this separate sense of self that blocks us from what's real. And that ego's got these judgments, got these thoughts, got these opinions about reality. We have so many opinions on reality. Everywhere you go, you have an opinion. In fact, right now, I can put money down that people are making opinions about me. I'm here, I'm speaking. Wow, I like that. I don't understand. Why is he still there? Why did I come? Right? Every thought in the world is happening while I'm up here. And that's okay. That's what we do. We're human beings. We have thoughts. We have opinions. We have judgments. We have expectations. We do a lot of stuff in our brains. And that's good. We're human. But it's our attachment to them, when we hold on so tight, that makes them concrete. And that's when the block starts. And first we see it blocking myself from someone else. But if we really get deep, we start to see that maybe we don't even feel ourselves so much. So the Torah word for ego is anochius, I-ness, or yeshut, which means isness. And there's a pasuk, a verse that I think about all the time. It's one of my favorite psukim in the Torah. And it's when Moshe Rabbeinu stands up and he's speaking to the Jewish people and he says, Va'anochi omed bein Hashem ubeinechem, and I stand in between you and God. And the Baal Shem Tov, right, the founder of Chassidus, explains that he wasn't just talking about himself that stood in between God and the Jewish people, but that it's the Anochi, the I, that stands in between us and God. That really, we're a magnet with spirituality. We are a magnet with God and godliness. We are a magnet with what's real. And naturally, we should be colliding with it all the time. We should always be feeling plugged in, feeling good and secure and safe and happy and joyful, except for the fact that there's a wall that blocks that realization. And the source of that wall is in our minds. And that's why we all have people in our lives who you can look at that person and say, how are they so positive all the time? How are they so happy all the time? You know that person in your social network where they seem a little bit more, they've got a little bit more kick in their step. There's a little less, cement in their wall. That's all. Just more light that's coming through, but it's all the same. We all have that. We all have it on the inside. We get sparks of it. And so we just want to know, how do we, pull the veil down, move the curtain, put some holes in that wall so that more of that light and more of that love and more of that feeling of safety and security can shine through. That's what we would like. So the ego's got two very, very major qualities, right? And it's funny, I think when we think about bitachon, and we'll get there, we'll speak about all the positivity, but one of the main things I want to get across to you tonight, if I have one thought to get through, is it's natural to feel connected. If we're not feeling connected, we're actually in an unnatural state. So instead of trying to force ourselves into thinking positively, we can remove some of the pieces that are just blocking the light that's already there, and we can get there. So here are the two things that the ego likes to think all the time. Number one, I'm in control. Right? The Arizal says that the ego all the time thinks with the following two words, Ana emloch, Ana emloch. That means I am the king. I am in charge. I'm in control. Those are the words of the ego. Those are the words that keep us separate from something bigger. We need to feel like we're in control. And of course, why do we need to feel like we're in control? Because somewhere inside we're afraid. And control makes us feel safe. So ego is not bad. There's a lot of talk about the ego being bad. It's not that it's bad, it's just that's our go-to to feel safe. And then the other sentence or sound that you'll hear is, I know better. I know I'm right. My version of life is right. Things should be like this and not like that. So far, just by a show of hands, we're all together? So far, we're together? Okay, good. Want to make sure. It's late, but I think in presidential estates, we stay up late, we party, we go deep in Torah, so we're doing it. There's an incredible, incredible line in the Talmud that says, Da kanita ma chasarta, da chasarta ma kanita. What that means is, if I have awareness, what do you lack? But if you lack awareness, what do you have? You ever heard that before? If you have awareness, what do you lack? That means if you have this thing called dat, if you have awareness, you lack nothing in your life. But if you lack awareness, if you lack that dat, what do you have? Meaning you could have everything, but do you really have anything? That's the piece we're trying to get to. There's something real that we can touch. And maybe just, if you will indulge me, we'll do just a quick exercise together and point something out, okay? But for that, I'm going to need to put the mic down just for a minute. And you guys will repeat after me, and we'll see what happens. This won't hurt much. Okay? Just, you need to put your hands up for a minute. Thank you. Okay. Give me all your money. Okay. It's been a long trip. Okay. Here we go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That is the secret to making sure you get a round of applause in the beginning, not at the end. There is no more pressure. Okay. But in all sincerity, someone yell out to me. How do your hands feel right now? What do you feel? Hands feel? Tingly. Universal word. Doesn't matter where I am, what city, what country, what time it is. That is the universal word for how your hands feel after you clap. Tingly. Okay. And what do your feet feel like? Slow to react. Okay? Okay, here's the hard one. What did your feet feel like while you were clapping? So we hear nothing, but there's another answer in there. It's 3 words. I don't know. Good. That's the honest answer. Anybody who knows what they feet felt like while you were clapping, I'm sorry, your feet probably hurt. Huh? Yeah. Were you sensitive to them while you were clapping? Yeah. Now, but while you were clapping. Oh, okay. Right. So we don't know. Why don't we know? That's right. We weren't focusing. We were not aware. We weren't paying attention. Okay, so here's the exercise, okay? That was just the first part. I want you to take a minute and just put all of your focus and energy into your feet right now. Okay? Everything. If it helps to put your feet flat on the floor, then put your feet flat on the floor. If it helps to close your eyes so that you can focus on what your feet feel like, you can just throw your whole focus, throw all of your energy into your feet and feel the shoes they're in. You can feel the ground underneath your feet. If you're really sensitive, maybe you feel the socks surrounding your foot, the energy, and just by a show of hands, if you can, let me know if you can feel your feet right now. Okay, almost there. Can you feel them? Okay, so keep your focus and attention in your feet. And what I want you to do, and we'll do this together, is we're going to clap again, but the exercise is, can you keep your focus on your feet while we're clapping and still feel them, okay? So focus in feet, and here we go. See? 2 rounds of applause, very special. Raise of hands if you could feel your feet while you were clapping. Right, there we go. That's about 99% of the room. And that's pretty unbelievable. And you got to tell me what changed. Focus, attention, awareness. One of the biggest secrets to life. What you focus on, you feel. What you focus on, you experience. And the interesting thing is that your feet were there before. The ground was there before. Your shoes were there before. There was only one thing missing. You. And now we just have to take that one exercise and realize how many other things in our life exist that we're not experiencing, but it's not because they're not there, it's because we're not there. That's really deep. It's really big. How many things exist in our life that we could experience if somehow we could just put our attention on something else? And by the way, could you still feel your hands? Yeah. That means you can feel 2 things at the same time. So it's not that your hands disappear. It's not that this world stops being this world, and it's not that challenges will disappear in your life, but you can be holding on to something, feeling something else, experiencing something else, even while there's a lot of noise going on in your life, right? The noise doesn't disappear, doesn't stop. There's still traffic. Hard things still happen. You still got to pay your bills. Everywhere I go, I ask, what are the biggest issues in your community? It's all the same. Everyone's dealing with, a relationship and their finances and their belief in themselves. Right? There you go. Human condition. I'm not good enough. My spouse isn't good enough. My money's not good enough. There's a problem with the numbers everywhere. But we can be holding a deeper space while that's happening. I'll tell you a great story. I've got little kids at home. Anybody here either have little girls or has a sister? It's 2 sisters. Yeah? Have you seen? Okay. So sisters can be best friends. Sisters cannot be best friends. Yeah. So one time, my younger daughter was drawing a picture, and it was a rainbow and a unicorn and a, butterfly. Cute little picture, nice picture. She comes and she says, Abba, look at this picture. And I said, wow, that's so beautiful. And her sister comes over, feeling a little bit jealous, and takes the picture and just rips it right in half. For context, I just want you to realize that would be if I walked over to you right now, took your cell phone and smashed it against the wall. Like, that was her whole life. Her life flashes before her eyes. And she takes the paper and she lifts it up, holding both sides, and says, I have two, I have two. That is wisdom. Where does that come from? Things didn't need to be different for her in that moment. In that moment, it was, oh, this is happening now. What do I notice now? Oh, now there are two. For a moment, it was judgmentless. I didn't need things to be different. That for me became my metaphor of the I have two moments of our life, when sometimes we really get it right. And instead of instantly reacting negatively, we look for the positive. We see life as an opportunity. So when the ego's down, we actually naturally see, oh, okay, I'm curious. What happens next? Who knows? I was driving yesterday on the, I think it was the 95. There is a 95 here in Florida. And two cars in front of me, a truck was driving, and a door fell off the truck. Yeah, true story. And the car in front of me swerved, I swerved, and then I looked in my rearview mirror to make sure the car behind me was okay. And when that happened, I hit something else, and I got a flat tire. I missed the meeting. That's okay. But I was in a good space as it was. So, and I was really grateful that I was by an exit. I pulled off to the side, and I got some things done on the road while I was waiting for the flat tire. But how many times does something like that happen, and then we get frustrated because we're thinking about the meeting, and now we're upset, so we call someone, now we're complaining about the thing that happened on the side of the road, and now we're going to spend 45 minutes being frustrated and getting more upset. You missed the meeting anyway. Right? That's not happening. You can't get that back. But what about those next 45 minutes, and what does that turn into when you finally do get to the meeting, and you're flustered and upset, and then now you get home, and the person that you are by the time you get home is a wreck because it's been 5 hours of stewing in a flat tire. BITACHON is, okay, what'll happen next? It's really hard to do that with harder things in life. But let's start with the simple things, because that's where most of us spend most of our time. Most of us spend most of our time dealing with the day-to-day struggles. So that's the beginning. The first step is, can we say, okay, there's another story that I like to share with people. Same sisters, slightly different age, same sister drama. And as a parent, I'm standing in the room, and one of them says to the other the three words that every parent cringes at and hates more than anything. And what were those three words one said to the other? I hate you. Amazing. Look at all the parents. See how they all knew? Right? All parents know what the three worst words are. I hate you. And you feel like, oh my God, I've done everything wrong. I'm a bad person. I'm a bad parent. What have I done? I'm going to have to come back in a Gilgul. I have to fix this all over again. Like, you go through all that, and I'm waiting to watch what's going to happen. And she looks at her and says, you know you chose your family before you came here. Then I'm thinking, I've done it right. Right? I'm a good parent. They understand. They're following. And she looks at her and says, I did choose my family before I came here, but I didn't know you'd be here. I had to laugh. In that moment, I'm cracking up, but that became my I didn't know that you'd be here moment. We go through life a lot of times saying, yeah, I believe, God runs the world, everything's good, Gamzu Latova, it's all good, except for this. I didn't sign up for this. They didn't tell me this would be here. They didn't tell me you would be here. They didn't tell me that event would be here. If I would have known that would be here, I just would have said no to the whole thing. Except for that. It's the exact opposite of the line we say, Gamzu Latova, this is also good. But quite a lot of the time we live with, not this, except for that. Those are the two worldviews we get to have. We get to live in I have two, or except for that. Except for that is when we have a desire and a vision for how life is supposed to be. Life is supposed to unfold. It should be this way. I should be right. I should be able to control my situations. I should be able to control you. We don't always get to do that. But every once in a while, We're feeling good, we're feeling plugged in, we're feeling awake, and we have the I have to experience where we just look past it. We can say, okay. We can be okay with what's happening. And the major difference between those two experiences is one thing. Do we find ways to make the present moment our ally, or is it our enemy? When life happens, are we in a fight with life? Is life happening to you, or is life happening for you? Is there more that's happening underneath? So when we talk about knowing what is real, and that which is real can never be threatened, it's always there. You can't get rid of it. But then there's something unreal that even though it doesn't exist, it seems to matter a lot. And because of that, we don't feel the natural connection to something that truly is there. It really is there. So there are some assumptions that live in the world of certainty. But before we go into the assumptions, again, just show of hands. We're still together? I feel together. Good. I just want to see. And by making you raise your hands, I know you're not asleep. Not you. I'm not talking to any one of you who raise your hands. Just that one person in the corner who is asleep, talking to you. So what are the assumptions of certainty? The assumptions of bitachon. I think this is where some of the struggles happen. And by the way, as somebody who speaks about positivity and connecting to Hashem and living with bitachon, maybe the number one most question I get is, Rabbi, I want to see a positive world. Have you turned on the news? Rabbi, I want to believe that things are good. Have you seen my bank account? Rabbi, I want to believe in good. Have you seen my wife? I hear it all, right? I then go speak to the wife and she said, ha, you spoke to him. Everybody's got something, right? I want to believe, I want to feel, and we all want to feel. Here are the assumptions, and I'm curious if anybody here feels this way all the time. The assumptions of bitachon and certainty are things are always okay. Things are working out. Things are always on time and on purpose. And there are no mistakes in the universe. And there are no accidents. And that ultimately life is good and eternal and loving. And there's guidance and direction. And you're never alone. And there's an all oneness. And life is abundant. Do we feel that way all the time? Do we ever feel that way? So sometimes. Some people, sometimes. But most people, most of the time, don't. Some people, sometimes. But those things are there to be had. They're there to be experienced. There's a reason why some people sometimes experience that. So how do we get to that place? And I think that's the real question. How do we get more of that in our life? And by the way, we want more of that in our life. And even for a person who might be thinking, I don't believe it's possible, or I don't even think that I should have that. You know, it's interesting. I once met with a certain billionaire. Now that I've met a handful of them, I don't have to be afraid that people might guess which one it is. But I was once sitting with a billionaire, and he asked me to teach him something. So I said, oh, I want to teach you this idea about happiness. And he looked at me straight in the face and said, I don't believe in happiness. I didn't even know what to do. I never heard that sentence before. I don't believe in happiness? I don't know what something you believed in. It's like I have a muna. There is happiness. I didn't know. What does that mean? And I tried to explain to him, and he didn't have it. He would not have the conversation with me. I tried for 40 minutes. Needless to say, that conversation didn't go all that well, but I don't believe in happiness. And he became the metaphor in my mind of the part of us that really is a billionaire, and yet we have a belief that doesn't believe in the happiness we can have. We're all wealthy already. We have beliefs that stop us from experiencing what's there. It's there. That's a promise. I rarely promise. Right? Everywhere in Torah speaks about the idea that there is an underlying joy to the soul, that the soul doesn't know anything other than happiness. And when we don't experience that, it's because we're disconnected from something on the inside. And we can get there. And it's possible. And it's not that life is about happiness. It's not a goal to achieve. And it's not a tool to use. It's an experience that we are. And we can touch that and experience that and get there. And part of that is going back to, well, what is real? And how many things in my life are blocking it? And it's fine. It could be that we all have childhood traumas that we're dealing with for the rest of our lives, trying to work through it. And it could be that you had a trauma when you're older. And it could be that you had a tragedy in your life. And it could be that you're seeing all the wars in the world. But it doesn't separate the fact that even though all those things are happening, when you were clapping, you could still feel your feet. Even when there's noise, we can be aware of and experience something else at the same time. Two things can be true at the same time. It can be loud. Have you ever seen one of these films where there's a crazy storm in the ocean and the waves and, the ship is and it's a crazy ocean. But if you go down 20 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet, eventually there's just stillness. The deeper you go in the ocean, there's a stillness that's there, even if it's crazy on top. Two things can be true at the same time. So we're looking for space for them. So we want to get a little bit practical and figure out, so how do we get to that place? How do we touch it a little bit more? And of course, there's only so much we could do in an hour. That's why we write books, by the way. And I was told that everywhere I go, I should mention that I'm from Israel. So if you buy my books, you're supporting Israel. Okay? So it's good. It's good. I like the line. I'm with it. Aside from it being transforming. I was once sitting at home. It was a Shabbos afternoon. And you ever had the experience where no one's home on a Shabbos afternoon? And if you have kids in the home, if you have a spouse, no one's home in the afternoon, and it's the first time you hear it and you're listening to see if it's really there, and it is. It's quiet. And in that quiet, I said, I'm going to go and grab a meditation for a minute. And so I went and I sat on the couch and I closed my eyes, and I'm a big proponent of meditation. I really think that everyone can gain from it. I don't know if everybody needs it, but everybody can get something from it. And I'm sitting there and I close my eyes and I go internal, and about 15 seconds later, the door opens up and in rushes in Hava, my 7-year-old daughter, with her cousin Mayan. And I hear them talking and playing, and they walk into the living room, and Ahava says, let's ask my dad for some popcorn. And Mayan says, yeah, let's ask for some popcorn. And she walks over and she says, Abba, can I have... Oh, we can't ask him right now. Why not? He's meditating. Oh. I think he'll let us have the popcorn anyway. And she turns around and she's walking back, and Mayan says, wait, what did you say? And she said, yeah, I think he'll let us have the popcorn anyway. And she said, no, that other thing, meditating? She said, oh yeah, he's meditating. She said, yeah, that. What's that? And she said, oh, he's talking to Hashem. You should try it sometime. It's great. I think you'll like it. So Mayan, her cousin, in this sweet, innocent 7-year-old voice, looks at my daughter and says, I do talk to Hashem, but he doesn't talk back. So Hava looks at her and says, that's why you should meditate. It's a cute story, but it's amazing. I don't think she realized what she said when she said that. What she was really saying is that when we pray, we're speaking to God. But when we get quiet, we allow ourselves to listen to what he's saying. We allow ourselves to tune into something deeper. And that's the very first step in growing any element of bitachon, in joy, in all of the things that we really want in this world. Sometimes you just have to turn the volume down on how much we have going on in our heads. We have so much going on. And like I said, there's a lot going on even here, and you're paying attention to something. And still, I don't even have a clock in front of me. I don't know about you. There's a clock behind me. I'm sure eyes are going there every, 10 seconds, right? That's what we do. We want to know, how much time am I here? What about this thing? I'm thinking about the laundry. Oh, did I leave the laundry on? Is the gas on? We think, and there's a lot of noise. And the noise is loud. And the noise keeps us separate from feeling things because there's so much going on inside. And sometimes it's not just the noise in our head. Sometimes it's our emotions. And we're feeling, I can't believe he said that to me. I can't believe she said that to me. I can't believe I did that at work. I can't believe this happened at school. And then we're sitting and we're stewing and we're stewing. And so there's just a lot of noise and a lot of static. And if we don't take time to get quiet and to experience something more still, the stillness under the ocean, right? If the ocean is a wild ride, if we can't get still and quiet, it's really hard to hear our own inner world. And all the more so, it's very hard to hear the sound of God that exists within us. There's a pasuk that says, Lo birash Hashem. That means God is not found in the noise. Very hard to hear in the noise. And it's not talking about South Beach. And it's not talking about Manhattan. It's talking about the noise that's right here, the noise that we carry with us everywhere we go. And when I tell this to people, sometimes they say, yeah, but I don't have time for meditation. I don't have time to sit. You want me to sit for 10 minutes and do nothing? 10 minutes and do nothing? By the way, not that your scrolling was doing anything, right? 10 minutes and do nothing? Who has time for that? So the more a person feels they don't have time for it, the more they need it. Right? If you don't have time to give yourself space, that means you have no space in your life. There's no room for you to just sit there and be with yourself. People think it takes forever. It doesn't take forever. It gives you forever. It gives you access to that timeless place. It takes a few minutes to settle in, but when you get there, you start to remember, oh, that's not so important. Maybe that doesn't matter as much. And what is real? You start to feel a little bit more of the what is real. So that's maybe the first place we'd start. And then another, right, if that's number one, so then number two is take the time at some point, whether it's just now here together or at some point later, and really think about, this is a really practical tool you can take with you. Again, it's working from the ego, trying to get back to this higher consciousness that we all have. And if you have this awareness, what do you lack? And if you lack this awareness, what do you have? And what you focus on, you feel. So what do we want to focus on? Well, we want to focus on the fact that the things that are making us afraid in this social climate, the things that make us frustrated in our homes, the things that make us sad and down, what I am not saying is ignore reality. The clapping is still happening. I'm not saying they're not happening. I'm saying we can expand our perception. We can expand and fit more in the peer view, in our scope of what we're taking in. And here's what I want to share. We can go general or go specific. As far as going general is concerned, I'd like us all to think just for a moment and realize that 99.9% of everything has to be going right for you to complain about one thing going wrong. Just for a moment. Realize. I'll give you the big one. We are on a rock floating through space. We shouldn't even be here. We are not falling off. There's gravity. As long as gravity works, we shouldn't have a right to complain. Gravity's still here. We're good. Can you see? Can you hear? Can you speak? Can you breathe? Is there someone listening to you complaining? If you're typing a complaint, is someone going to receive that? Wow, you have human connection? Wow. You know, someone has to be there for you to be upset about something. You're feeling angry. Wow, you still have emotions? That's unbelievable. It works. Your brain is working. You know how many things have to go right to be mad about anything? It's not to say, ignore the thing and repress the feelings. Do not get the wrong message. It's just to say, remember that when we're upset about the one thing going wrong, and when we're afraid to walk outside because we're afraid of how people might see us, remember, most things are going well. And most things are going well. That's not a fallacy. That's a truth. Truth is, most things are working. We don't get to be here if most things aren't working. And you know what else? Sometimes I get some pushback on this. But this is true too. We are living in the best time in human history. This is the best time yet. It's kind of like the stock market. The market's always going up, but there are hills and valleys along the way. But we've been moving in the right direction for thousands of years. I really believe that whether it's social media or traditional media or whatever it is that we fill our minds with, or the conversations that we're having, that sometimes we're given this doom and gloom version of life, that life is bad, that life's getting worse, that we have more to be afraid of than ever before. But did you know the crime rates are down in America today more than they ever were before in US history? And that's just choosing one country. And if you look at every statistical category in the world, things have been moving this way. What you focus on, you feel. That's what we experience. There's a great book, if you don't believe me and you don't want to trust me, there's a wonderful book called Factfulness, 10 Reasons We Are Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than What We Think. I think that's the subtitle. It's by someone named Hans Rosling. And the entire book is non-emotional. It's just all the facts about how the world today is a better world than before. An amazing book. Just saying, if you want to pick something up. But if you don't want to pick that up, just saying. The world's okay. It doesn't make things not hard. In fact, when I first got here, I was in Los Angeles. I wasn't sure about the social climate because, again, coming from Israel and then now being in America, it's a very, very different world. So I wore my baseball hat. I went to an ATM to deposit something, and the security guard standing there looked at me and he said, "Why are you hiding under that hat?" Excuse me? Yeah, why are you hiding under that hat? We know who you are. And it was that moment of like, wow, things have changed. Things have really changed, right? I was walking in the airport. I was wearing my suit and my hat. And as I'm walking, someone grabbed my elbow and kept walking. And I wasn't sure it was a, "Hey, I'm with you, love you, brother," or it was, "I'm watching you." But that feeling of I'm not sure, that's the uncertainty that we're feeling. I don't know who's sitting next to me on the bus. I don't know who's sitting in front of me at the cashier. I just don't know. But we have to remember, even with that, we can maintain space for most people are good, right? Most people don't want to fight. Most people don't harbor hate. It's not to say there isn't opportunity to feel fear. We feel fear, but we have to remember, we have to believe in humanity. It's actually our only hope, is to believe in humanity, to believe in ourselves, and to help unlock that in the world. One of the things that the Vilna Gaon says we can do for ourselves if sometimes we get caught in this cycle is the same way we went general and say, let's look at the good in the world, despite the fact that there's challenges and pain. We have to do the same thing for our lives. And here's a great exercise. He says, just like in the Megillah, which if you haven't read it, I suggest it, the entire story is about mishap after mishap that ends up turning into salvation. Things look like they're going wrong, but it's all a setup for something right. And that's true in our lives as well. And every now and then, it's worthwhile to take stock and think about some of the blessings in your life, and then do that one step deeper and think about what went wrong along the way that allowed this blessing to show up in my life. Everything's right timing. Is there anything in your life that's so beautiful, that's so good, that's such a blessing, you would never trade it, you would never give it up? And then think about the fact that somewhere along the way you were stuck in traffic. And had you gotten to some other place earlier, maybe the blessing you had wouldn't be there. All the things in our life that we love and that we appreciate, and the things that we're moving towards, they're part of a much bigger story. In the same way that's true for us in the micro, that's true for the world in the macro. That's true for all of humanity. So what we're really trying to do is create space. Space for ourselves, space for these ideas, space to let go and surrender. You don't have to know. A lot of times tell people, these ideas, and they'll say, yeah, but I don't know. I don't see good in this. I can't see good in this. So this is me letting you know, you don't have to know how it's good. You just have to believe that it can be. It might lead to something that's important. It could open up a door that's important down the line. It might be important for a spiritual reason that we can't understand. When I was in Los Angeles, I spoke with another individual who got up and he was talking about God, and he said, the best thing about God is I don't understand him. He said, why is that the best thing about God? He's like, because if I could understand him, I wouldn't want him to be my God. I wouldn't want a God I could understand. I'm not that smart. That wouldn't work for me. That would be pretty egotistical and self-serving for me to think that I can know everything. So I don't have to know how everything works out, but I have to know it can. And if I know that it can, I can be at peace even when there's a challenge. I don't have to like what's happening. I just have to be able to be there in a space of non-resistance. So maybe with that, we'll close together, just coming back to this initial idea that that which is real, it's not going anywhere, and it's there, and it's waiting for us to come to it. And that which is unreal, our ego, our focus and attention on all the things that are going wrong, our desire to be in control, our desire to always be right, to always have the answer, that doesn't exist. And when we get to that place, we can remember, things are working out in the way that they do. Things are happening in a way that's beyond us. There are no mistakes. There are no accidents. Life is happening on purpose. That there's goodness. That life's not happening to you. It's happening for you. We should all be blessed to feel it and experience it, and for it to not just be an idea in the mind, but an experience in the heart. Thank you, guys.